letting go. It is like spiritual spring cleaning, decluttering our hearts and minds from all that hinders our relationship with God and each other. Repentance during Lent is an invitation to change our thinking, to turn away from being mired in our sin and inadequacies, toward discovering the loving embrace of our God who is gracious and full of compassion. During Lent, we realize the basic truth that grace is the context for confession. We remember that our spiritual lives begin with grace, not guilt, with pardon, not confession, with freedom, not fear, with the inclusive love that approaches us from the empty tomb with arms wide open. Lent prepares us for the wonder of Easter. Repentance gratefully celebrates that our sin is always behind us, forgiven by the crucified and risen Christ. Maybe this Lent I'll empty that box as a symbol of getting rid of clutter in my basement and in my soul, of release from my stuckness, and of letting go into the divine embrace of grace and getting hugged into holiness all the way to Easter and beyond. Let us pray. Holy Spirit, inspire me to let go of anything that hinders my relationship with the risen Christ. Encourage me to give up my resistance to God's loving presence and to make space for an inner resurrection to new life. Amen. And then his bio was, this was quite a few years back, Don Postma is Emeritus Pastor of Campus Chapel, where he ministered for 34 years. Man, I got to catch up. He now carries on a ministry of spiritual formation. He and his wife Elaine have become friends of First Pres and enjoy worshiping with us, and they still do. So thanks be to God for Don's words to us tonight. Now I get to introduce these friends that I've gotten to know a little bit over the last couple months as we started putting this together, and they've been so gracious to give us not only their time tonight, but time with me online in preparation for this, and thank you for the work that you do. Bethany Lemm, her credentials are there before you, and John Shovels from the Alcohol Management Program. They're going to tell us a different way to think about dealing with alcohol issues. Here we go.
Thank you. It's good to have you guys all here, and the people that are streaming, good to see you. Even though I can't see you, but good to see you. All right. John Shovels. I'm a health educator with the Alcohol Management Program, and this is Bethany, my colleague. And we are a team of two that makes up this program called the Alcohol Management Program. We're part of the University of Michigan, and there's a department called Healthy, which is about helping with wellness activities, health and wellness for employees and other forms of staff. Was there an interruption? No. Gotcha. All right, very good. So we help folks specifically in making changes to how they use alcohol in their life, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit more about our program as we wrap up today, but let's get right into what we're here to talk about, okay? This is our discussion. We're going to talk to you a little bit, we call it Alcohol 101. What is it that we need to know about alcohol? Hopefully we'll give you some information that you haven't seen before, maybe bring some new insights to it. Health. Health is a word that we want to make sure that you guys understand, maybe differently than you have before. We have a way that we think about health that we think will be helpful for our conversation. Then alcohol, and how does it impact our health? Now that we have this new understanding of health, how does it impact it? Change strategies. What can we do in the work that we do? You guys are care providers, we're care providers. What can we do that might help influence some change in helping folks with their alcohol use? Ways to provide support. So now that we know we've got these tools, I can help you change, how do I support you in that process? How do I get you to want to be part of this relationship where we can work together and hopefully provide the support to bring the change that you hope to make, okay? And then finally, we'll talk about what is this program that we have, this alcohol management program, and how might it be helpful for the folks that we're all working with here in this community. All right, let's get right into it. Alcohol. Most widely used drug in this country and around the world. Key word there, drug. Yeah, alcohol is a drug. It is. Bethany reminded me on the way in, it's a drug, but isn't it interesting that we put it in a whole different part of the store than the rest of the drugs? Isn't that interesting? And it's easy to forget that it's a drug, right? Because we wrap it up into sporting events and commercials, and there's a lot of excitement around the use of it, but let's not forget that it's a drug. Okay, that's an important thing to remember. More than 50% of all people living in the United States have some history in their family where there may be a drinking problem. Does that surprise you a little bit, maybe? Surprise me maybe a little bit. But yeah, because we know that there's these genetics, right? They talk about these genetic things that sometimes carry it through families. And it may not be directly from one family to the next. It may skip in time. But it can be a problem for about half the folks that live in this country. Alcohol ranks among the top 5 risk factors for disease, disability, and death throughout the world. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. All right, I love this slide. We talk about I had a drink, or maybe I had 2 drinks. What does that mean? This helps us understand what it means, okay? Because it's not the same. A drink is not a drink. It depends on what you're drinking, and that's what this slide shows. Let's start up there on the left, okay? U.S. standard drink sizes. A 12-ounce beer, Budweiser, Miller, right? The stuff you see on the sporting events, that type of stuff, has 5% alcohol by volume, okay? Meaning in the 12 ounces, there's 5% alcohol, okay? It's a little bit less for the light beers, but in general, that's about right. The next one over there, what might be more relevant to the times that we live in, this is malt liquor, but let's think also about craft beer, right? Craft beer is kind of the same as this, about 7% alcohol by volume. But do you see what happened? I'm having a beer, but how much beer I have, it's less now, right? So now it's only 8 ounces, but I have this much alcohol in there. Wine on the bottom left. Anyone in the room here know how many glasses or how many drinks of wine there is in one bottle? We've got winners. 5. Yeah, there's 5. Sometimes it's really surprising to our people that we work with. They're like, I had no idea. Yeah, it's about 5 ounces, 12% alcohol by volume. And then the last one is spirits, whiskey, vodka, gin, those types of things, right? You get to much smaller quantities, 1.5 ounces, very small quantity, right? And that's considered a drink. So again, takeaway here is I had a drink, but it depends, right, on what you're drinking. All right, we love this. We give this to all the clients we work with, and it's oftentimes really eye-opening and helpful for folks to understand. What is the difference between excessive drinking and drinking where maybe you have reduced the risk associated with drinking? And this chart here helps us a lot. And I want to start up on the top left. You'll see those green people up there. All right. Now we're going to use a term, it's a little different than maybe what you guys have heard before, but we're going to say assigned at birth male and assigned at birth female instead of just calling people men and women, okay? So that's a term we're going to use here tonight. So assigned at birth male is that bottom one right here. We're going to talk about binge drinking. If that male is drinking 5 or more drinks in one occasion, that's considered binge drinking, okay? Binge drinking. Same thing up on the top one, assigned female at birth, goes down a little bit, 4 drinks in one occasion. So that's binge drinking. You guys have heard that term, right? People binge drink, having that quantity in a relatively short period of time. I think it says it up there, about 2 to 3 hours. Yep, that's the kind of time frame we're talking about, is binge drinking. Over to the top right. This one I think we all know. Anyone under the age of 21 is not someone who's a legal drinker, okay? So that's underage drinking. Easy one to probably understand. Bottom left, probably also a little bit easier to understand. If you are pregnant, the risk for the pregnant person and that child are, very high. So that is pregnant drinking. Any form of drinking would be considered excessive drinking at that point. And then over here, heavy drinking. What's defined as heavy drinking? So again, for a person assigned male at birth, it would be 15 or more drinks in a week would be considered heavy drinking. And for a person assigned female at birth, 8 drinks or more. Okay, 8 drinks or more. And again, remember, drinks depend, right? It depends on what you're drinking. All right. In the US, this is interesting. According to 2023 Gallup survey, 62% of all adults drink alcohol in this country, but maybe more importantly, 38% do not at all. And I got a wow in the room. I remember the first time I saw this, I said, almost 40% of the US population does not drink alcohol at all? Yeah, and I had a wow when I first saw it, and I still sometimes hear the wow. Yeah, it is. It's something that maybe we don't hear a lot about. We think everybody drinks, right? Everybody drinks. But about 40% actually don't. This is up a little bit also since 2021, but down from the historical highs in the 70s, okay? So if you add in everyone who's drinking, it's, about 65%. And Bethany's got a comment.
In 2021, 2020, right, COVID? So that affects some of our numbers there too.
Yeah, so if you couldn't hear that over the recording, COVID had an impact on that, right? 2021, right? So we had some impact there that makes sense to all of us, doesn't it? Okay. Next slide, yeah. All right, what are some trends that we see right now? One of them is that our younger folks in this country are drinking less. Gen Z. I know I have a Gen Z in my house, but I can't remember what the age is. But it's the millennials, which is the Y, and then the Z, which are younger than that. We see it across those ages, that alcohol consumption is down. Interesting. Youth are more likely to moderate or not drink at all compared to other generations. And I'll also add something else. They're more what we call sober curious. That's a word that is used out there that some of you may have heard. Meaning they're willing to try things to change their relationship and how they drink. They're willing to have different kinds of parties that don't involve alcohol, right? They're more willing to do things and not have it involve alcohol than other generations maybe have been able to do things. And that's kind of unique to this generation of youth. And they tend to choose healthier alternative beverages. Boy, you go to the store and look at all the different energy drinks and yeah. There's so many things out there that they're drinking now. And they're, again, just drinking other things that I guess bring enjoyment to them, and they're not alcoholic drinks. So
It's my slide next.
yeah, so we're going to adjust. Is your microphone on?
I believe so, yeah.
All right.
I also want to say, and piggyback on John, is that a lot of people who are younger, so again, millennials, Gen Z, they're driving the beverage industry to have NA beverages. So lots of NA beers, NA wines, NA distilled drinks, right? So that is who is pushing the industry, which is great. The industry is like, we don't want to lose them as a potential buyer. We need to make changes. And so it's kind of nice to see that our actions do drive, right, kind of change with that. So health, right? When we think of health, we think of health as holistic. So it's not just the absence of illness or disease, but it's complete physical, mental, and social well-being, right? That's the World Health Organization's definition of health, and our definition as well. So whenever we talk about health, at least in our program, it's more than just hangovers, headaches, things like that. We want individuals to be able to access health when they need it, where they need it, without suffering financial consequences, right? It is a human right, and we want that for everybody. So in what ways, potentially, can alcohol impact our health? Anyone want to kind of shout out something? Holistic, and no answer is wrong.
You mean good and bad?
Well, what, yeah, good, sure.
Raises the risk of breast cancer.
It does, and we'll definitely talk about that. It does. And just we know too, breast cancer, it's a dose-to-dose relationship. So for that cancer, say, each drink increases the risk for breast cancer for that.
It impairs your judgment and also your driving and increasing risk of falls.
Absolutely, it slows our brain's connection, right? So our pathways, it's slowing the messages to, our legs for movement, right? Our brain, our speech, all that. Anybody else?
Self-medicates for anxiety can be helpful or not.
Yeah, that's
Working.
a big one. I think I don't have the actual number in my head. I want to say it's around 80% of our population that we work with indicate having anxiety, at least self-diagnosed, if not officially diagnosed, as well as depression, and they do kind of use it to cope. Bill, you were going to say something?
I didn't want to turn my liver into a solid
Cirrhosis.
football.
Yeah, liver disease, cirrhosis, all that.
Affects your sleep.
Absolutely. Definitely affects sleep. And it's interesting, and we'll talk about sleep a little bit more too, but some individuals use it to fall asleep. It's just not good quality sleep, right? So they wake up and they're like, I feel like I haven't slept at all when I slept 8 hours or something like that. Go ahead, yep. Yeah, so absolutely some of those things that you said. It also suppresses our immune system for up to 24 to 48 hours after we drink. So our immune system is suppressed. It increases inflammation, right? So maybe we catch a cold and also are inflamed, so we can't breathe as well either on top of that. Of course, those 7 cancers. So we know of 7 cancers. That doesn't mean there's only 7 cancers. We just know of 7 cancers. And that's the mouth, esophagus, throat, voice box, breast, liver, and colon rectal cancers. All those cancers. Sometimes it's just an increased risk. In the case of breast cancer, again, it's dose-to-dose risk for use. Oh, no, wait, stop. High blood pressure, right? Stroke. I don't know, I'm old enough to remember that the wine industry was like, have wine, good for your heart, right? I don't know if y'all heard that, right? It's not really. They had really, they kind of clocked on this one study, right, that said, oh, if you drink wine, you have decent heart, health. But then they also found out, wait a minute, those individuals had great diets, access to health care, exercise. They went to the doctor, right? So there's a lot of other things out of that. So it actually increases, again, blood pressure, so we see that, as well as stroke and other heart problems as well. Digestive problems, acid reflux, ulcers, right, can also happen because of alcohol. Sleep, right? Mel mentioned sleep. It can, even if you drink at lower levels, so below the recommendations, right, from the CDC, if you drink below that, it can affect your sleep quality by about 9%. The National Sleep Foundation has done some studies. If you drink at the heavy drinking limits, that's about 40% decrease in quality of sleep. Right? So it affects our REM cycles and our deep sleep cycles as well. So it can be really problematic. Right? Oftentimes when we work with individuals, again, who are using alcohol to maybe sleep, we kind of let them know, unfortunately, when we're decreasing, your sleep might be disturbed a little bit because you're not using it to fall asleep. Right? So let's talk about other sleep hygiene. So we do cross over to other areas and talk about sleep hygiene. Right? Talk about stress and anxiety. Because a lot of people do use it for relief, for anxiety and depression. And it's short term. Right? However, the next day, our depression and anxiety is a lot worse usually. Over time, too, the dopamine rise that we get from alcohol diminishes over time. So if you're an individual who maybe uses alcohol on a routine basis, that high or that dopamine is going to be non-existent at some point with that. And of course, it affects our nutrition. So sometimes we eat a little differently, or alcohol has empty calories, so it might kind of add to our dietary plans. Also, it blocks certain vitamin absorptions. So B1, B12, folic acid, and zinc. It kind of blocks. So certainly, if you're taking vitamins, you want to get the best out of those vitamins, right? Especially food. Dehydration, right, causes dehydration. So a lot of times people will say, gosh, why am I so thirsty? I keep drinking this beer. It's dehydrating. Other conditions like we talked about, it could increase sleep apnea, as well as like acid reflux, some of those other things we have, right? If we already have high blood pressure, it could kind of keep it going. Hangover symptoms, kind of like sluggishness, tired the next day, maybe a little headache, right? Kind of not to your fullest potential. Could also detox, right? We're gonna have withdrawal from the drug the next day. Again, drug, right? So that could be mild punkish feeling, like a little flu, irritable a little bit, could all the way be up to life-threatening. So seizures, hallucinations, lots of panic, profuse sweating, those are definitely life-threatening. Okay. What I think, those physical symptoms, they are horrible, right? But that guilt and frustration for a lot of people, that weighs tremendously on their shoulders for a longer period of time. Perhaps they have a hangover, that's gone by evening, or certainly maybe the next day, right? But that guilt or that annoyance with themselves, that can still be on their shoulders. So a lot of times people come to our program because of that guilt or frustration they have. Of course, we talked about the anxiousness, depressed mood. That can, again, change over time. Where even that dopamine, we're still going to have lower and lower depression then. Change in the personality. Sometimes people mention that they are more irritable, or they're not as present or engaged, or sometimes they're withdrawn, right? Or sometimes they are robust, and they're the loudest person in the room when they don't want to be, right? So that definitely changes our personality. Relationships, that's a big one, right? So it could be perhaps they're causing their partner to be embarrassed by their actions, or somebody in their family. Next slide, John, thanks. They also might lose individuals in their life. Maybe friends that, hey, I'm not hanging around that person. Maybe one because they don't drink and I do, and I don't want to do anything with them, I want to drink. Or it could be that their behaviors, right, have been so severe that individuals no longer don't want to hang around them. Finances, it's expensive, right? I guess it's relatively cheap when you're thinking about drugs maybe, but it is expensive. And so many individuals don't realize how much they're spending because they buy it at Kroger with their groceries, right? And they put it on their debit or credit card. So they don't really think about how much they're spending on alcohol. And if that's of interest with the individual, you look at that with them. But if it's not, we don't look at it with them. Also spending on money on other things. So some of our clients might say, you know what, I go on eBay and I do buy some things, right, that I don't intend to do. That can happen, right? It's easy to drink too much, and it's easy to drink. Right? It's all right. So those legal consequences that we talked about, DUI, right, someone mentioned. Also, sometimes people have jail, hopefully they don't, but we actually have a program for first-time offenders for DUI. First-time offenders, we work with them to abstain. Right? So our program, and we'll get more into it, is moderation, harm reduction, or abstinence. But with individuals who are there because of a DUI, it's abstinence-based, and we work with them on that. Because it's great that they have to be, but how do they do that then, right? So we work with them on figuring that out. Of course, it could interfere with work. It's amazing at how many people kind of come back in our program and they say, now that I'm drinking less, you know what? I'm much more focused in the morning, right? Or I'm able to respond better. I didn't know that alcohol was affecting me that way. Activities, people kind of sometimes stop doing things that they enjoy. Could be exercise. Oh, they have a glass of wine. They're not probably as likely to go out running. Or hobbies that they enjoy, they might reduce or neglect those as well. So something that University of Michigan, I don't know if everyone's familiar with University of Michigan, right? We have our Go Blue stuff here on today. We have the dimensions of well-being. And so we look again at health holistically, right? And our program, if you're looking at our program, technically we land in that physical blue top pedal. However, I can honestly say that alcohol can touch every one of those, right? And so when we, again, holistically, so we might talk about, yeah, physical. They might come in through our door under our programs, right? But again, we're touching on spirituality, right? Sometimes people say, I'm not connecting as I could be, right? Social, intellectual, all those pedals are very important, and alcohol can either, reducing alcohol can enhance maybe those pedals, or stopping altogether, perhaps, as well. I think that's next one's yours. Yep. And John's going to talk a little bit more about those.
All right. The inventory of consequences, this is a tool that we use in our program that helps folks refer to what Bethany just showed you, those pedals. We help people to understand that the reason why they're coming in, we may not always help them with this, but we clarify it for them. The reason why they're coming in is because they've identified the negative consequences of using alcohol have built up to a level where they've said something's got to change, right? That's why they come to us, is the consequences have become unbearable to me. So we have this tool that we help folks learn more about how the consequences may be affecting them in different areas of their life. And those areas include physical health, their emotional health, their relational health, their recreational health, financial, legal, their sexual health. So we look at it from a wide realm of alcohol affects people in many of those areas and more. And this tool helps them to go into this a little bit more and identify, boy, are there areas that I need to narrow in on now that I have a better understanding? And if I narrow in on that area and really focus on improving that area and reducing the consequences, that's going to give me possibly less of a desire to use as much alcohol as I do. Because oftentimes the reason why people are using alcohol is because they have deficits and it's filling areas of their life, right? Oftentimes this tool helps people to be able to identify that with ultimately the goal in that last bullet, which is identify the motivation to help them move forward with the goals they have for their life, okay? So we help them identify, this is where I'd like to make change. I now understand. Now, how do I do that? Right, that becomes the question. So it's the why is the motivation. Why do I want to do this? Oh, yeah, I got that now. And then we get to the how do I do that now that I understand it? And that's a major part of what our program is about, is helping people to understand how. So, change strategies. How do you slow how quickly you drink? Every single person I work with, and I think Bethany does the same thing, I challenge everybody that I work with, pay attention to every beverage you drink and slow down. Everything. They're like, water? Yep, water.
Everything.
Doesn't matter. Slow down how much you drink. And almost 100% of the time, people come back to me the next week and they say, I had no idea I drank as fast as I do. It's just universal. I drink everything way too fast. And they become aware of that. So one of our challenges is drink slower. Slow down that pace in which you drink. Be very mindful. Really think a lot about it. Reduce the alcohol content in your drink. We live in times where there's lots of alternatives. right? People can find lots of alternative drinks and reduce the alcohol. There's wines that have lower alcohol, all sorts of beers that have lower alcohol, even liquors. You can switch over, find something that has lower alcohol. So that's a really important strategy of change that we help people with. The power of water, that's the third one. Water is a powerful tool towards change. We challenge our folks to include water while they're drinking their alcoholic beverage. So if you want to have that alcoholic beverage, drink water with it. So you might alternate sips. You might have the first one, and maybe that's the night you decided, maybe I'll have two. You take a big break and you drink some water instead, and you slow the whole thing down. And what does that do? It helps slow the pace. So they kind of interact together now.
Yeah.
Food, it's another powerful one. Make sure you have food. Make sure you're keeping yourself nourished, right? That helps to slow the absorption of the alcohol on the stomach lining, right? Slows down all that absorption just by having food there. It's a great strategy. Again, helps to slow the pace too. Being mindful, that's so important. Thinking about when you're drinking. Be aware of when you're drinking. Why am I drinking? How am I drinking? Am I paying attention to my pace? You're not just drinking, you're actually drinking and you're thinking about what you're doing while you're drinking. It's incredibly powerful when people use that. They're just thinking about it, and we challenge our folks to do that. Don't just drink, think while you're drinking, okay? It will help accomplish these goals. Plan your strategy in advance. It's connected to being mindful. If you're gonna go out and your decision, I always tell people, you have a couple decisions to make. If you choose to be a drinker, then you have multiple questions you're asking. The first one is, do I want to drink? And if the answer is yes, you got a whole bunch of other questions to answer. And sometimes people will go, what? No, you've started the whole chain of questions now when you say, yes, I'd like to drink. And those questions are, well, how much am I gonna have? And how long will I be at that place? And who's gonna be there with me? And what do I know about those people? Are they the people that kind of push drinks on me? And, right, and it's questions after questions start to build up. Knowing the answer, planning your strategy is really important. I have a line I use with all my clients. Show up later and leave earlier when you go to events.
Shorten that time.
Yep, it's a simple one. I'll ask them, how long do you typically go to your golf league? Well, you know, we play our round, but I usually show up, 45 minutes early and down one, and then I hang out with the guys for another 3 or 4. Get there later and leave earlier. You've just accomplished a great deal, okay? And then the last one, know your no. K-N-O-W your N-O. I have to know how to say no. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a second a little bit more. How do you do that? All right, this is an example of a strategy that we use in our program, okay? It's called HALT, as you guys can see, and it addresses triggers. Triggers are those things that we become aware of, influence our drinking. They generally fall in 3 categories, right? I drink because I'm responding to emotions. Emotions are a trigger. I'm either feeling bummed out, or maybe I'm feeling really good. But we drink because we're triggered on our emotions. The second area is people and places, right? There's environments we're at, there's people we're with. Those tend to trigger our drinking, okay? And the last one is it's very habitual, right? It's just part of the pulse of the way I live my life. It's almost like the person that says, I was standing over the stove and I had a glass of wine in my hand and I don't even know where it came from, because that's what I do every night. Every night I just do it. Netflix is on, and where did that come from? Because it's so habitual, right? So those are the categories: our emotions, our people, our places, and our habits. Well, this is a nice skill that we introduced, just an example, we have a whole bunch of them, called HALT. H, is it because of habit, like we said, or maybe it's hungry, right? Those are 2 good H words. So I feed myself and I pay attention, is this habitual? The second one, am I anxious? Maybe I'm angry. It's that emotional realm, right? We just talked about it. It's emotion. Maybe I'm drinking because it's just painful emotion. I'm stressed. The next one, we kind of fell off on this one with the L's, but lonely and bored. So
we love our acronyms and we have to fill it with something.
yeah. But again, talking about emotion again, maybe it's because I feel disconnected. And if I pick up the phone and I've connected with somebody, or if I send a text to my sister, that would help me feel like, oh wow, I stopped that feeling of I'm just so disconnected. It's been a tough week, right? I just feel like connection is so important. And this is a really important one. Taking that action. Tired and thirsty, that's the T, right? We talked about water again, the power of water. And maybe I'm just really tired, I'm fatigued, and what I really need to do is just pull out my book, snuggle in the corner, read the book with the light on, and just rest, right? Or literally go to sleep, right? Those are all triggers, these things, and we can respond to them by paying very close attention to them, okay? All right. Know your no. I told you we'd get back to this one. So I know my no, what I say. All right. Good examples. And remember what we said a minute ago, you have to plan ahead. That's a great strategy. Planning ahead is a change strategy. Well, this is an example, knowing your no. So I'm going to a place. Am I aware of what I'm going to say to be in control of my own drinking? It's very important that when people are moderating and learning to control their drinking, that they remember, I have to be in charge of my own drinking. I can't turn the control over to other people, right? And this is an example. No thanks when someone comes to you and they've got the next drink ready for you. Oh, no thanks. I'll get one when I'm ready. Right? That can be really hard for people to say. It takes courage to say this, right? Will they reject me? Will my friends still like me? This can be difficult. I'm good for now. No thanks. Maybe I'll just get a water instead, right? There's great examples here. I'm not drinking tonight. Hey, I'm driving tonight, right? Plan that ahead. I'm the designated driver. I'm working with a lady right now, and that's the strategy she's using every bowling night, every Friday night. She volunteered. I'm the designated driver. And it's working for her.
And I'm going to interrupt and say, if you're the DD, that means 0 alcohol.
Zero alcohol, yep. Thank you, Bethany.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's a great know your no. She's got it planned. That's what's going to help me through it, and it's working. Okay? I appreciate, right?
Yeah. And I want to add kind of something as well, is that oftentimes we have to refuse ourselves as well. So it's kind of thinking about, know your no for yourself, right? Because we're the first one perhaps that's going to offer ourselves a drink.
I'm so glad you said that, yeah. It is, yeah. Who sometimes has the loudest voice in our head? Yeah, our own voice. So that's such a great reminder right there. All right, so again, we talked about I'm understanding why, my motivation's there, I'm making change, and I've got these skills that I'm learning, right? But how can you help others also, right? You guys are working with folks. You work with folks here in this congregation, maybe in other relationships, and you may be called to help. So how do you provide support? So when you're hosting events, this is a really important one, make sure that you provide lots of non-alcoholic options, okay? That's really important.
More than water.
Yeah. Remember what we said a second ago? Almost 40% of the people don't drink. So imagine when you set up your little, event, 40% of the people there aren't going to drink. Do they have something to drink? Right? Plan that way. Have lots of non-alcoholic options. Examine the language that you use and how you refer to alcohol. And also how you refer to people who may be struggling with alcohol, right? That's another important thing. Some of the words that can be very triggering for folks is to call someone an alcoholic, right? That can be well intended, but some people could get hurt by that language, right? So we have to think about both how we refer to the alcohol and how we refer to the person that you're caring for. Remember, your language is really important, okay? Look for creative ways to connect with others outside of alcohol. We spend a lot of time in our program helping folks identify non-drinking activities that make them feel alive, right? So I have people do an exercise where I say, I want you to identify on a list those things that you used to do that brought out the best in you, the best of you, and you're not doing it anymore. What are those things? I say you put them in hibernation. You got to get them out of hibernation. What are those things? Inevitably, people come up with them. They're like, yeah, I used to do that. I just don't do it anymore. And then I challenge them with, what are the things you've always wanted to do? And maybe it's time to do one of them. Maybe it's time to stretch yourself. This is your opportunity. You want to make change to yourself? You looked at where those change areas are, the opportunities there, maybe it's time. And we can help them take that risk, right? Take that step to do something that maybe they've always wanted to do that can create change. All right. Respect individuals when they say no. 40% of the population almost doesn't drink, right? I'll just keep saying it.
We want to normalize being alcohol-free.
Yeah. Okay. Directly ask people how you can provide support, right? That's great. Questions are always the best way to help find solutions, right? Versus I have an idea. I have an idea of what you can do. Sometimes isn't as good as, what can I do for you? What might be helpful? And just listening, right? It's so fundamental, but we forget to do it because we want to be helpful. My wife reminds me of this all the time. It'd be more helpful if you didn't talk and if you just listened. It's been a lifetime of me learning that, and I'm getting a little better after 32 years. Okay, that's a whole nother workshop. All right, again, don't ask why someone is not drinking. That's a big one too. We work with a lot of folks who say, I just feel like if I tell somebody that I'm not drinking, that they're gonna think lobsters are climbing out of my ears. And then they go, oh, I told them, and they said, oh, great, congratulations. People are very self-aware and very concerned about trying to share that they're not drinking, right? It's a very powerful social message, drinking and not drinking. So be sensitive to that, right? All right. Supportive invitations to talk. I know that drinking less is hard for you. Yeah, how can I support you? That'd be a great question right there. I'm here for you whenever you want to talk more. Talk to me when you want to drink. Whenever you feel the urge to drink, you can call and text me. Right? Those are very friendly messages, very open messages that can help people be willing to talk. All right.
And that's me.
Now, I'm going to turn it over to Bethany. We're going to talk a little bit more about our program specifics.
Yeah. So our program, AMP, or the Alcohol Management Program, kind of morphed out of DrinkWise. I don't know if anyone remembers DrinkWise. Okay, DrinkWise came out from a University of Toronto, and then University of Michigan had that for a while, and it changed. We changed it. We kept some of it. It's a lot different than perhaps DrinkWise once was a long time ago. I don't even know how many, 30 years, something like that. It's been a long time. So the Alcohol Management Program, again, came out of DrinkWise, different program now. Is a brief behavior change. So we're brief. We're not going to have a client for several years, right? We usually meet with individuals first on a phone screening, just to make sure the program's a good fit for them. We don't want to waste their time, right? We want to make sure we're a good fit for them. Then we would meet with them for an initial interview. This can happen via Zoom, on the phone, or we do offer limited in-person again. Options. So we have 3 different options for individuals. They don't have to be in the Ann Arbor area. We actually work with individuals worldwide, so it's kind of cool. During that program, again, initial interview, really kind of reflecting on their relationship with alcohol, right? We look historically, maybe since they started drinking, but really focusing on the past year. Out of that initial interview, then we would meet with them one-on-one, usually between 4 to 6 sessions. So again, brief, right? Those sessions, though, are dictated by them. They tell us when they want to meet, right? They could be working on a goal for 1 week or 3 weeks, right? So they might want to meet during that time. They might want to wait till after, right, that 3rd week. So again, that it's client-centered. They're dictating kind of what their goal is, if they want to reduce their harm, or if they want to go alcohol-free. So again, it's in their choice. After the 4 to 6 sessions, we meet with them at 1, 3, and 6 months after the program ends. I'm going to say during COVID, there was a lot more than 4 to 6 sessions. All right, I'm just going to say that. We're back down to where it maybe is 4 to 6, but during COVID, we might have 15 sessions, right? Because that was a lot different. People didn't have their normal coping options. Gyms were closed, social places were closed, right? So we really did have to have extra support for those individuals. They deserved it.
I'll add one more thing too.
Yeah.
These are scheduled 1, 3, and 6 month follow-ups.
Yeah.
But we love talking to folks when they just need to reach out to us.
Doors always open.
Yeah, and we tell everybody that, and a lot of people will say, yeah, I'll take you up on that. I'm just having a bad day, and I thought I'd reach out. So we really try to be organically involved in people's lives when they need us, because we know this is a process. This takes time.
This doesn't run on a schedule, right? We might have our 1, 3, and 6 month follow-up, but life changes in between. Oh my gosh, there's a holiday, right? Or I have a really stressful event coming up. We want them to contact us. Or we schedule, sessions in between those too. So it's flexible, right? That's another thing. Oh, did I do the last? Did I get all of it on the last slide? Okay. During the sessions, John kind of went over some of those things. We talk about values. We want to connect them to reasons why you want to make the change, right? Look at those values. Is family really high? Am I more present for my family and engaged if I'm drinking less, right? People say, gosh, creativity. Okay, but once I have some alcohol, I'm not going to write. Or maybe I'm not going to, craft or things like that. So we talk about their values. We definitely want to track any alcohol use. However they want to do it, that mindfulness, right? That awareness piece. We do have an old school journal. No one's really going to take that out when they're out to dinner and write on it. We know that. But they can come out with a way that works for them, right? Just to be mindful and pause to make that decision around having the drink. We also want to think about temptation management, kind of journaling. Gosh, okay, I had this plan. I went there. How did it go? Do I need to tweak anything for next time, right? Kind of reflecting. No judgment, though. We really want the individual to leave judgment behind. It doesn't help, right? We just want to look, hey, did it work? No? Okay, let's tweak it. Let's think about, more supports or whatever. Again, pacing, self-talk, right, to help us get us through those temptations. Free time activities. A lot of people will say, you know what, boredom. I'm bored in the evenings, right? Let's look at those free times that you used to do, that you want to get back to, or something that you've always wanted to try, right? Let's talk about how to kind of go about doing that. Because I could always say, I would love to try yoga. Okay, what's that first step, right? Because that puts it more into action phase for that. It is private. We don't chart in the medical chart, right? So people want to know, hey, is this going to be in my, portal? No, it's not. The only time it'll be in there is if you got referred from the doctor. There might be a referral, but we don't chart, we don't note in the medical chart. All right, so it is private. And it is, again, client-centered. So it's up to, we have recommendations, of course, the CDC and things, but it's up to them. Like, do they want to reduce, right? Do they want to abstain? Maybe they're not sure. That's okay too. That's all right. During COVID, right, we talk about our silver linings of COVID, because COVID wasn't great, still not great. But silver linings, we waived all the fees during COVID. So it used to be that staff and faculty got the program at no cost. They still do. But community members and patients had to pay a fee. Waived it as a barrier, especially during COVID, where we wanted to support individuals. And we've been able to maintain no cost I always say that really quietly because we want to still maintain it at no cost, but it is no cost. So that's nice. Again, kind of reduce the barriers, right, with that. Sometimes the program is not enough, right, for the individual, and that's okay. They need more and they deserve more. We can try to have that conversation. Perhaps it's therapy in addition to our program, because alcohol's not over here and all the rest of your life's over here. It's like this sometimes, right? So if we're working on alcohol use, I think I do have a little bit more anxiety, or I think I'm drinking because I'm maybe upset in my marriage. Okay, let's then talk about also therapy on board too, right? Or sometimes we talk about maybe this program is a good start, but I think I maybe need medication to also help not drink, or therapy. Or treatment. So we definitely refer to all the treatment programs in the area as well. All right, so feel free to share information, right? To give us a call, to have others, contact us. You can call. I will have to say, I apologize for the Gen Z and millennials. We don't Snapchat and we can't text. But old school, you can pick up the phone and call us. Or if that is too much, you can definitely email us. And you can kind of contact us through our website as well. So we're located online. Go ahead, next slide. Just a thank you. But hopefully you've learned a little bit more, kind of like a little bit Alcohol 101, how it can affect our health and well-being. Also, a little bit, about our program details, like what we might go over with clients, as well as how to support individuals. And thank you. If there's any questions, we'd love to take it. Yeah.
Yeah, good, and then I'll pass it around. So at that initial evaluation, are you looking for, I'm sure, clues of for whom this program would be appropriate?
Yeah.
What are the situations when people need a different, can you tell up front if people are more appropriate for a more intense?
We definitely try to, yeah. So in the phone screening, we do ask some questions to kind of gauge it. We use a tool called the audit. See? Yeah. And so we kind of try to gauge. And then during our initial interview, which is an hour and a half long, so it's a really good chunk of time, we use the DSM-5. We also look if they're managing any mental health that maybe is not managed. Right? We definitely also look at any barriers to care. So we kind of explore those things. And so some individuals might, during that initial interview, say, you know what? I think I need some extra support. And absolutely, they deserve that. And so that's when we kind of have that conversation too. Sometimes they also want to come through our program because we're a little less scary than treatment.
Yeah.
Right? So we can kind of have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I would add to that, what makes us unique is that we work with folks who want to make any change to their alcohol consumption. And it oftentimes can be a doorway into them actually discovering abstinence is what I need. Mm-hmm. And then we can help them get to what might have been a barrier now becomes a door they want to come into. But it's because we were able to go through this journey with them.
Yeah.
So
It's really a gift.
That we have. How many people are in the program now, and is there a wait list?
No wait list. I think at the moment, 120 something, I think it is. But again, those individuals could be in follow-up, right? They could be initial interview. And so there's no wait list right now. If they want an evening time, there's just a little less availability. So they might have to wait maybe 2 or 3 weeks just for a nighttime appointment. But otherwise, we can see them next week or this week.
we generally have no wait list at all.
Just the two of you?
Just the two
Just
of
the two of
us.
us.
Do you sleep? Do you have any interns?
No. We used to a long time ago, but no, we don't have any interns. But we work really well together. And we bump meetings. So if I have like a task that we're working on, we bump those for clients. So clients come first.
It's a wonderful environment to work in. It is, because we're not tied down by a lot of the things that happen for a
Insurance.
fee. We don't have to deal with insurance and all that kind of stuff. We truly can just help people. We help people, and we write down that we helped people. It's really wonderful. And again, the 120, as Bethany said, that doesn't mean that we're seeing all of them right now.
Right.
They're in different phases.
Phases
Some
of
of
the
them,
program.
might be 6 months out or 3 months.
And sometimes people complete the program, and then 3 years from now, they contact us and they say, you know what? I had this life event happen. That happened during COVID for sure, right? And so it's like, I think I need extra support again now. That's absolutely okay. Again, doors always open.
Were there other comments, questions people had? Here you go.
Thank you. Okay, so what if there's someone in a person's life that you really think could benefit from your program, but they are not willing to talk about their alcohol use? And furthermore, when someone who loves them brings it up, there's, severe backlash. Do you have any verbiage or language, or you just gave some great language to Mel there. Do you have words of wisdom like that to help this person who really loves the person that's having an issue?
I think just my first thought would be, I really care about you. I love you. And if and when you're willing to talk about it, just let me know I'm here. You can't make the individual.
It's not a problem. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, totally. I love you. I care. If you ever feel like it's not in a good place, let me know. I'll be here for you. Or whatever. I don't know.
Unfortunately, part of the answer is it depends. You can throw things at me now if you'd like. Yeah, but it does, right? It depends on the nature of each relationship, because some relationships, a person can hear from that loved one a gentle statement of, kind of reflecting on what you saw, and the person could say, yeah, that's true,
But if they're not.
But others can't. And if they can't, then I think what Bethany's saying ends up being about as good as you can do, which is, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. I want the best for you. I love you. And maybe even, it hurts me when I see this hurting you.
Yeah.
Right? That might be the best place to start. Other relationships, you can go a little bit further and say, that hurt me when I saw, and you could be very specific about what the consequence was. That was undeniable. It really hurt me when I saw you come home last night and, you fell and you bumped your head, or you came home and you're telling me you don't even remember talking to me. That really hurt me, right? Some relationships can hear that. So it just kind of depends a little bit.
And they may respond the same, but they'll think about it a little bit.
And they might say, it's not a problem. It was one time, and that's okay. You can say, well, I just wanted to share that with you. But again, I just wanted to say it just out of love and out of concern, and maybe that's as far as you can go.
And I will say that sometimes we get individuals on, that contact our program wanting us to contact somebody. We can't do that. They have to call and contact us.
But we do these conversations with those folks, because we get these conversations, and they're not easy answers, as you can tell. We're trying our best here because they are kind of unique. So we'll spend time talking to these people about what is the relationship you have with this person. Tell us a little bit about it so that we understand maybe where we could give the advice on how to best talk about it.
How to bring it up.
Yeah.
Any other
Is
questions?
that helpful? I hope.
So don't
It's hard.
learn that you say, I'm in the last quarter of my life and I want to see you healthy before.
Depending upon who they are, maybe. That's okay.
I can't say you can't
It's
say
coming,
that.
It's coming from the heart. That's all right.
But again, it depends. It depends. Yeah.
Remember, we all have, somebody in our life who we care about who might use alcohol in maybe not such a healthy way.
Also, sometimes someone else can hear what needs to be said. So you may have an ally in your life who this person might be able to hear what you want to say. It's like what my kids used to do, and it used to drive me nuts. They'd come home and they'd tell me their teacher told them something, and they were a wizard. They're the smartest person that's ever lived. And I'd go, didn't I tell you that 47 times yesterday? Right? It's kind of that thing. The message sometimes is relying upon the messenger. So that's another thing to think about.
Ally, yeah.
Is that sometimes we need allies. Well, we all need allies, right?
too.
And you have one, and maybe, and I'm not saying that you break the confidence with this person, because that's a risk too, but maybe you have that other person be able to express what it is that you've said, and they can hear it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what we do with folks.
Yeah.
You had mentioned DrinkWise, and I just remember something about that in the past, and that it was here at the U.
It was.
And some negative, I just, that it didn't work, or there was something.
I think that
Can
was
you?
moderation management, right?
Moderation
Yeah,
management,
yeah,
yeah.
and
Can
DrinkWise,
you
yeah.
tell us about that, how your program is different from that? And, yeah.
So I came after DrinkWise, so it wasn't necessarily DrinkWise when I started. I've been with the program for, oh my gosh, 15 to 16 years.
And I'm and I'm 5, so.
He got here.
Whatever
and then
she
COVID
says.
hit. And so, yeah, so DrinkWise was a long time ago. I believe they had someone who was in the DrinkWise program, or it might have been moderation management, they're both linked, that drove drunk and hurt somebody, killed somebody. And so, absolutely, that's not great. And we tried.
Client, and who was in the program?
Not our program, no. Moderation management, which is, I guess, a similar program than DrinkWise before. It's a group program. So DrinkWise, I forget when they ended that, but we ended our contract before I got on board. So I'm guessing maybe like 20 some years ago, maybe 25 years ago. We did, of course, keep some of the staple as harm reduction, right? Some of the strategies are the same, but we kind of changed the program a bit with that. And we tried to screen out individuals who need more than what our program can provide. What's that is we can't guarantee, but neither can AA. Right, and AA is great. Again, we recommend, we refer to AA, Smart Recovery, Women for Sobriety, right? Buddhist, all kinds of different Dharma recovery. I have actually a client who loves his AA meeting out in Kansas, right? Doing, DUI, he's doing his program and has a meeting out in Kansas online. Again, another silver lining, right? It works for his schedule. So, but again, some we can't guarantee that individuals in our program won't have a problem later on, right? But we hopefully try to get them to the best support that they need. It's a continuum. Right?
Which is a big shift in our culture. It used to be the only thing that we will talk about is you stopping drinking immediately, and if you say that, then we'll help you. That's the way it used to be. And we've come a long ways now in helping people to realize that there's multiple pathways, there's doors that people need, and there's different doors that welcome them into the experience where they feel welcomed enough to say, yeah, maybe I want to hear what you have to say now, because I've gotten tired of all these consequences that keep piling up in my life. And that's really what I want to talk about. I just want to talk about how my life feels crummy right now, and maybe how that's linked to alcohol. And then we'll help them figure out what it is they want to do. But if it starts with the criteria is the door opens when you tell us that you'll do something for me, that's backwards. That's backwards. It's the other way around, right? That I'm here for you to tell me what you need. Come on in and we'll figure it out. We have a question on our initial intake. And we ask them, what is your desire that you'd like to gain from our program? Is it to fully abstain? Is it to moderate? Or is it, I don't know? I love I don't know. Almost everybody says I don't know. And when they say I don't know, I'm like, you found the right door.
Yeah.
We specialize in I don't know. That's what I tell people. I'm an expert in I don't know. Welcome, right? That's what we love to do in our program, is help people who don't know start to discover.
And usually they feel a sense of relief when we talk with them, the phone screening, that they don't have to abstain if they don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, oh, okay, I think this is all right. Let me kind of have another session with you.
Yeah.
I was driving somewhere recently and I heard on the radio that more people now use cannabis than alcohol, and it blew my mind. I'm not sure it's actually accurate, but what I want to ask about that is there's so many dispensaries. They're on every corner. And how do you all deal with people that say, I want to get off alcohol, but I think I'll use more cannabis because it doesn't linger that long, or blah, blah, blah. It's cheaper, I can use less. And so they're just kind of gravitating to the next addiction for themselves. How do you deal with that? And do you see something coming for cannabis use like the M Healthy program? That's my question.
We're talking about that.
We're in the middle of talking about that.
So we are also looking at the reasons why they want to use cannabis, right? Because those triggers, we want to get at those triggers. Is it anxiety again? Well, then let's really look at the anxiety. We don't want to necessarily cover it up with another drug, right? You mentioned use is increasing. Alcohol's still the number one, which, I have 3 dispensaries in my Saline neighborhood. I tell you what, I have a whole heck of a ton more selling alcohol, right? So it's definitely more available still. But with the decrease in the millennials and Gen Z, I don't know how much is in part to the increase in cannabis use as well among that, right? So cannabis use absolutely is increasing. It's just not, again, to the extent of alcohol. But we want to really work with the individuals, like, why? And we are looking at having maybe a program in the future around cannabis.
We're doing a lot of learning right now as a program at hopefully being able to bring some cannabis management programming into what we do. So we're looking at it, we're trying to understand it. One of the problems with it is while it's still being a federally illegal drug, trying to get a lot of good information, it's not really available because there's still so much prohibition on, being able to research and kind of understand it. But we're doing our best to try and understand what's out there. But I agree with Bethany 100%. We don't delve into, now we're going to do a cannabis management program with them, but when it does come up, exactly. Maybe, do you use that for some of the same reasons that you told me about with your alcohol? Because that would make sense to me that you would. And they'll oftentimes say, yeah, I do. I'm bored.
Sleep.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't sleep. Okay, great. Let's make sure we address that as we go through the program then.
And
So many parallels. They're just, it's becoming more and more clear that there are health consequences.
yes,
They differ somewhat, but
Yes.
tobacco and alcohol, but
right.
yeah.
Exactly, absolutely.
That's-
It's still a drug, right? And I will have to say, on campus, they do have a program for students around cannabis.
I'm a little worried about the "you hurt me" response. Comes in, slams the door, breaks the glass in the window, and the wife says, "When you come in this condition, you really hurt me." That's a deep guilt trip,
I don't,
in my opinion.
And I think.
I made that comment a moment ago when I was responding there, right? Is that
Yeah.
what you're responding to? Was that, yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you for bringing that up. Because you're right, you have to be careful. You have to be very careful about the language that we use and that the person doesn't hear that as an attack, that hurt, I'm attacking you because I said that. I think that's what you're responding to. Would that be fair?
Your safety is number one, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
And you want to, I think, know who you're talking to and if you could, right, say something and when to say something. And again, you might not be in a safe environment to do that. To be able to say that.
I've finally gotten the idea that you are treating people whose family members are struggling with alcohol as well as people who are questioning their own use.
We don't necessarily do treatment or programs
Because
with
you're
them.
giving a lot of, you're sharing a lot of expertise on that subject here,
Yeah.
but that's not your client base.
But we do talk with individuals about how to support their partner if they're calling and their partner's not calling, right? We definitely talk about how to support themselves as well. Al-Anon's a great resource too. And we do have some sessions, I know that John and I both, where the individual or client wants to have their partner in some sessions. They have to sign a release form to do that. And then they can kind of come in those sessions too, because guess what? Sometimes their alcohol use is related with our partner too, right? And so we do sometimes actually do a little bit, right, with individuals who care about the client too. Yep, absolutely.
And we certainly are coaching individuals that realize that their alcohol use maybe has had a negative impact on the relationship, and how they may be able to help improve that situation. So we're kind of indirectly working with the family in that way.
And we encourage family
Yeah.
therapy too. Yeah.
We family therapists like that.
Yeah. We need more family therapists, and therapists in general, but yeah.
Do you use any of the 12-step ideas or?
Now, if they want to, we'll endorse it, we'll support them, but our program doesn't necessarily follow a 12-step.
No,
But again, we have individuals who go to AA as well, and that's great too, right? We want to support them however they want to change their alcohol use.
This has been super helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What you do, the difference you make. I feel sure we'll be inviting you back again on a Sunday morning if you can make that sometime.
Yeah.
So that more of our members can hear
Yeah, absolutely.
what important work this is and the issues that underlie it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us out.
Glad we could start the
Thank you.
conversation. Thank you.
And if there's a question you didn't get to, feel free to email, call us.